for another live podcast on YouTube and LinkedIn, where we bring you another exciting episode of the Top Innovator Series. This is where we dive into proven leadership ideas, game-changing strategies, and of course, the brilliant minds behind them. I'm Joseph Martins, and I'm excited to introduce our guest who we have with us today. With us is Robert Field. Robert is the global CIO of Adler Advisors. He's a transformational leader, and he enjoys solving complex problems. He thrives in building high-performance teams and looks at technology as a tool for enabling and disrupting companies. Robert, it's an absolute pleasure having you with us here.
Well, thank you for having me as well. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I really enjoyed our short pre-chat that we had. And for those who are watching, Robert steered me into the direction of focusing on people more and away from focusing on technology. And I think that's a perfect start to the conversation we have on leadership and Robert's leadership journey. Robert, when you look at your journey as a leader and highly successful, highly accomplished career, when you reflect on that, what do you think are some of the ingredients for your success? What are some of the leadership secrets that brought you to where you are today?
I think the biggest lessons I've had throughout my journey are you can't do it alone. So I've had tremendous people around me that have given me the time and the knowledge to accelerate my own learning and my own growth. And if you have an open mindset and willingness to learn, then you don't have to always experience the change in yourself. You could experience the change by learning from others and trying to implement what you've learned in your own flavor. Mm-hmm. And I've had a few pivotal moments throughout my career that have reinforced that. One was a very good friend of mine, Kevin Field, no relation, taught me that not every CIO deserves a seat at the table. They have to earn the seat at the table. And if your voice isn't being heard, build your own table. And he wrote an article about that. And as I learned through a very good friend, or I like to think of a mentor, Craig Kular is a global CIO of Omnicom. He taught me that the value from a CIO comes by delivering business value, not technology value. Technology is important, but the value that you can deliver to the business will help connect you to the rest of the organization. Those two things taught me that understanding people, the business, and learning from others is a really great way to accelerate your.
I'm going to dive deeper into the people topic in a moment. You said something else there that really sparked my interest because I've heard other CIOs talk about this. You talked about CIOs having the right to sit at the table. And it suggests a distinction that some have that right and others haven't. And I've spoken to CIOs before who said they are not invited to sit at the big table. They feel like they are an executive sitting at the sort of the kids' table of the Thanksgiving dinner. Talk to me, what makes the difference? How does the CIO get to the adult table? How does the CIO get to the big round of the decision making?
I believe we have a lot of terms, especially over the last few years, that have been thrown around this role and what it's called: CIO, CTO, CDIO, and people are talking about Chief AI Officer. And at the end of all of that noise comes down to the value that you're delivering to your organization. Mm-hmm. If you're an IT leader and you're worrying about technology only, then there's no value to the rest of the business there. And being a CIO is a very lonely job. You have to take information in from your business partners, from your team, from your peers. But if you're delivering only technology, that's a commodity. You have to understand the way to enhance your value by providing business growth and business change. I have a definition of digital transformation. It's business transformation using technology as an enabler. And if we're focused on the value that we deliver to the business will see that we're invaluable to them and always invite us to every part of those conversations. There are things throughout the last few years, COVID and major East Coast blackouts, that prove the value of technology. But if we don't know how to deliver intrinsic value to the business, there's no reason for us to have a seat at that table. We haven't earned it.
Was that always clear to you through your entire journey, or did you have a moment where you realized that and you switched from your focus on technology over to your focus on making sure there is business value? Talk to me about your discovery, about your own journey as it comes to that.
So growing up in technology and understanding the value of technology, the arrogance that comes with my younger self thinking I deserved a seat at the table because you have a seat in your
Mm,
title was short-lived when the
okay.
conversations went above my head. People talking about how to generate revenue, how to do cost savings, and I'm worried about what systems I'm going to put in place became less and less important, and my role became less important to them on an operational perspective, or even worse, a strategic level. Then I started looking externally and teaching my team about the value of understanding the people you work with
Hmm.
and building those relationships. Once I started building better relationships and seeing the same people going through the same pains as I am, but going alone, building those partnerships proved to me that every day I walk into an organization, everybody has a story. It's their own story, but it's not personal. And the fights might not be personal. They really are only about what they're going through the day. So it's a moment, not a lifetime. So I've had a
So
few
what?
through moments in my career where I thought it was all about me. And if I took a step out and said, it's about all of us, I took the technology out of it and I only asked the question, how can I help? Which is what I do every day.
So what did you do to manage that shift? Or how did you level up in that focus on the business and the people? Did you go to classes, attend courses, go to peer group meetings? Are you self-taught? What was your particular journey on that?
I mean, the very first one that had the biggest impact is early in my career as a junior leader, as a director of an organization, and I wasn't a CIO. I had a meeting with a business partner, and this is working in a hospital, and he was late, and I was arrogant, and I'm a little, why are you late? I'm better than you. In my mind, that's what I'm thinking. But the reality was when he
Wow.
walked into the room, it was a physician's assistant, and he was late because he was in the middle of a surgery with a baby. And all I cared about was getting the project going and talking about the business. And it was I don't even remember what the project was. I probably could think about it. But the important thing was, it was nothing was more important than what he was doing in that moment. Nothing I could bring to the table added value to him saving the life of an infant. And that moment taught me stop thinking about yourself and look at others. And I
Wow.
started an educational journey. I did a lot of leadership classes. I worked on
Yeah.
learning more about business areas. I took some business classes. Then I tried to really immerse myself into driving value for those that need it. And it didn't have to be technology. Sometimes my role is to just buy pizza and make sure everyone's fed, or do what I can just to keep the business running. And pizza euphemism for whatever it takes to keep the
Right.
business running. My role is to make sure that people are heard, values met, and you deliver something that makes them feel like they're included. And I always say, I very often say, people will never remember what you did for them. They'll always remember how they made you feel, how you made them feel. And I think that goes a very long way in
Yeah.
being authentically connected to your business so they feel like you're delivering value to them all the time.
Yeah. And that's a really valuable comment to make, especially in a group of technologists, right? Where the focus is so often on subject matter, on technology as opposed to the people.
Yeah, there was one conference I went to that I refer everyone all the time, and it was a great session. It wasn't a technology session. It was Singularity University, based on the
Hmm.
book The Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil, and it talks about the rate of change of technology grows exponentially fast, right? And depending on who you talk to, and if you go through Singularity University, they talked about being the cost of energy is related to the growth of technology. As energy gets cheaper and technology gets grows exponentially faster, it's hard for any one person to keep up with the changes in technology. And if you try, you're going to lose shape. You're going to lose sight of the other areas of the business that are increasingly more important, the ones that generate revenue, that pay your budget. I can't worry about what's the next latest, greatest technology. I
Yeah.
have peers and relationships that do, and they're specific in those areas. And I have friends that work in all areas of cloud companies or SaaS solutions or ERP companies. And I can reach out to them and let them do what they do well. What I do well is build these relationships with an organization and make sure that they're getting what they need met. And that's a full-time job in itself. So
Yeah.
leave the growth of technology to the experts, and I'll take care of the growth of the business.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit more about the advice that you've received on your journey, your mentors or other advice that you've received. What are some of the pieces of advice that really resonated with you and had an impact on your leadership?
I'll still never forget my first dinner with Craig from Craig Kular, and he was delivering a solution that drove value right to people's hands in the business. So they got information from an advertiser perspective immediately. And I questioned, I said, but why? Why are you trying to learn this business to help do your job as an IT leader. And he told me flat out, he says, my job is to deliver business, not IT. I've been a fan of Craig's ever since. I watch everything he does, but it doesn't end there. Harry Mosley and Gary Sorrentino, the past and current CIO of Zoom, taught me the value of delivering business to your organization and the organizations around you. And I try to surround myself by people that are willing to learn and teach and share their journeys so I can learn on my own. I have another very good friend who's Andrea Markstrom. She's the CEO of a law firm. She has thousands of bosses. So she has to report to a lot of people because they're all lawyers. And you learn about customer experience that way. I think in every relationship I make, I try to learn something from them. And the authenticity I bring to them is just, what can I do for you in return? Because that knowledge is invaluable. I don't think you can learn that in a class or a session or a conference. It's just from building relationships with people.
It's from relationships and the experiences you have, right? Like the experience you shared with the physician or the physician's assistant you met. Very hard to recreate, right? You can share it, but I'm sure the impact it had on you is something that is difficult to recreate for someone else.
Yeah, still emotional to me this day. I can still put myself back in that moment, and that emotion anchors in the knowledge that I have to look at what's around me, and someone on my team might be having a bad day, and I have to make sure that they're taken care of. A peer, a colleague, or anyone at that point. What's their story, and try to walk a day in their shoes, then you'll do a better job on your own.
Yep. Now, we've talked about your past leadership journey. Let's take a look at today, right? Again, highly accomplished career, great point that you've reached. And at the same time, there's probably room for growth, right? There is going to be a next step, a next level up. I would love to know from you, what's an area where you feel like you can level up? What's an area where you feel like you're not fully there yet? There is room to improve. There's room to grow.
I think there's not enough time to have that conversation. Every day, I'm lucky enough to be with Adler Advisors now, and that came as a shock to me too. And leaving my last role and coming to this one, when I was asked to take this role, it was based on a personal relationship. I was a customer before I was their CIO.
Okay.
And understanding the perspective that they brought to the table was, we don't know what we're doing in this area of having a CIO. Can you help us, and can you help us grow? And having an opportunity to really do my job and not worry about my job for a change was important. I think for me, I've had a lucky career to work in many different industries. I've worked in financial services, in manufacturing, in education, in healthcare. It's almost like Jeopardy categories. But I think where I need to learn more is trying to embrace the new businesses as they come, and being open enough to say, well, I think continuing to embrace the new businesses as they come, and being open to say, what out of here can I take away to make myself better that might not be related to another organization, but apply that in another organization. I think too often companies hire people that have experience in their current industry instead of looking outside that industry. And if you look outside an industry, you might have the opportunity to grow much quicker, exponentially, or 10x, as I hear a lot of people using that phrase lately, 10x your growth model, because you have an outside perspective. And the CIO role is pivotal to do that, because we have less of an opportunity we have more of an opportunity now to focus on what the business is doing, but taking information from other areas, I think, really is applicable to helping those companies grow. So getting involved more in industries I haven't worked in would probably be very interesting to add to my arsenal of information I already have.
Very cool. And it's not easy to do that, right? Because it means getting outside the comfort zone, which is, everyone wants to be comfortable. Everyone wants to be not too much stretched. And okay, got it.
I think the best phrase for that is being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yep. Now let's take a look into the future. If we were to meet again in 2 or 3 years' time, and we have another conversation about leadership, we have another conversation about your learnings, about what you took from it, what do you think would be different? So imagining your next step up, and I don't mean this in terms of position or companies, I just mean this in terms of your leadership development. What do you think is going to be next? What's the next evolution of Robert?
It's interesting. 2 years is a long time away. I mean, every year I go through my 1, 3, and 5 year plan. And I have that. And I remember my plan
Okay.
specifically the day before COVID was already set up for the next year, and that plan got thrown into the garbage, right? So having conversation around where the next 2 or 3 years look like is difficult. Deepak Chopra talks about the cells in your body constantly being replaced and regenerated, and you become a new person very often. I'd love to know where I might be in 2 years, but if I do know, then the things I'm unaware of that I'm about to embrace, I won't embrace them. And I think it's really important to make sure that without a preconceived notion of where I'm going, be open to what the universe has for you and constantly reinvent yourself. So I won't be the same Rob. In fact, I don't say this ever very publicly, but in small circles, I talk about if I met 30-year-old Rob, what would I do to him? And
Okay. Go for it.
what is Rob look like in 2 3 years? It's very different than 30-year-old Rob looked, and it's very different than who I am now. But I do know that I'm hopeful to be in a position of helping organizations grow, and helping them run, helping them transform,
Yeah.
and continuing to provide value. And that comes by just a lot of education, which I do on my own. I do with peers. I listen and try to learn often.
Yeah.
And anyone that wants to set up a Zoom and talk about what they're going through, I'm happy to listen and collaborate any day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice. The point about the body renewing every, what was it, 7 years or so, right, when the cells get replaced, and how we really are a different person. If I'm not mistaken, I think the brain cells do not get replaced though, right? They are with us for life. Isn't that the case?
Yes, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that right now, and I appreciate it.
I'm not an expert.
So that's not my area of expertise either, and that's
Yeah.
why I like to read from Deepak and
Yeah.
others. And but just the concept alone of regenerating your body and you is just a euphemism for continually revolve and learn and grow.
Yeah.
And I know where I'm going to be today. I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow, and the day after that seems like a lifetime away. But every day changes, and
Yep.
there are obstacles that we have to overcome, and how the tenacity we take to get through those days
Yep.
helps define who you are. And more importantly, the people you surround yourself with are a true testament of the type of person you are. And I'm blessed to have the network I do and the people around me. And without them, I don't think I can do anything. But
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to have such a wonderful network of amazing people. And I know that if I call, they'll answer, and which is why I don't call unless I really need it.
Yeah, yeah. And great point about the network, the connections or the relationships that we have. Let me ask you one question about that. And that's maybe the last question for our conversation. When you look at not just your network, but at tech executives in general, what is something that you think many of them are not seeing? What is something that many of them are, maybe it's not entirely clear to them, something that you've discovered in your journey, something that you know is important in that role, and at the same time, many seem to be missing it?
So I might be saying something that a lot of people think of but don't say, but the network you build, the relationships you have, especially at the tech executive level, are more important than any other relationships in your professional life. And while I adore my company and the founders and what we've become, I know that my network will always be there for me. I've had multiple careers I've had a long career in multiple roles, and I'm not with those companies anymore, but I'm still talking about Kevin Field, who taught me back in 2009, if you don't get a seated table at your own table, right? And I'm still friends with Kevin to this day.
Yeah.
And the value I get from my network needs to be nurtured and taken care of. Don't call someone when you need them because you're looking for a new role. Stay engaged with them and make sure that you carve up enough time to build and grow your network, because without them, you're only doing it alone. And it's a very hard job to do alone. So I really think that if you can make sure that you keep those connections close and spend time with them, it makes what you do every day easier. So it'll be a symbiotic relationship to both. Just put the time into building your network and getting to know the people around you.
Yep. Awesome. Robert, thank you so much. This was awesome. I really, really enjoyed your unwavering focus on people, on the relationships. That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For everyone else out there, it's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us so that you don't miss the next episode. Until then, we look forward to seeing you again, and keep your brain cells active.